Hello, everybody, and welcome to this fifth episode of the Closers Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Marco Alvarado, and joining me, as always, is my main man and co-host and great friend, Quinn the Moondog Kalani. What's up?
Just chasing my tail. That's a double A thing to say. Chasing my tail.
That is a double A thing to say. I hope he's doing well. Double A, if you're listening to this, which I know you're not, because out on the old USS Ronald Reagan, they don't give you enough Wi-Fi to listen to podcasts, unfortunately. But
close this pod to private double A.
Bowie. Right? That's what you were referring to.
Do they smoke grass on the high seas, Bowie?
I liked your episode of Hang Ten, Quinn. It was very, very different from your previous two, mainly because there was no MMA talk on it, but also just the tone was very direct. I liked it. Good job on that.
Oh, thanks. It actually took me a couple of takes. I had done some earlier in the day. I had done like 7 takes, and I was just like, I kept getting close to the end, and I kept floundering.
Kept goofing it up.
Yeah.
And
then I watched the extended cut of Lord of the Rings: Return of the King last night.
Oh, damn. Well, nice.
And then it was like 11:50, and then afterwards I was like, it will be done. And then I just came up here and did it, and then I just sent it to you.
Nice. Yeah, no, it turned out great, but I definitely understand how it is, like the whole taking a couple, making sure, doing a couple takes for Hang 10, because for closing out the week, I've had to do that a couple times. Just totally, redoing it, getting at the very end, and then realizing, okay, I've stopped talking way too many times during this. I've stuttered way too many times. I've dragged on certain points that really didn't need to be dragged on at all. I need to redo this entire thing. So then I just delete it and redo it. But we're not doing that for this show. Not for this episode. One take only.
We drag.
That's how we roll on the Closers Podcast. One take only. But before we move on, please go to our Instagram account at the Closers Podcast. Hit that follow button, and we'll follow you back. We're very hospitable people. We got manners. Unlike that lady who told you to put on a mask, Quinn. And if you don't know what we're referring to, click the link in our Instagram bio.
That bullfrog on Hot Wheels.
Please click the link in our Instagram bio to see all of our other avenues where you can get our content: Spotify, Apple Pods, Stitcher, Google Pods, and wherever else you can get your podcasts. You can find us on there. Follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the Closers Podcast. Like our videos, share them as well with your friends, family, girlfriends, boyfriends, significant others, and anybody else that would enjoy our content. We appreciate it very much. We appreciate all the support. We've been getting some followers recently on Instagram, which has been really, really cool to see. I'm glad that, our efforts have not been in vain, even though during this pandemic situation, it can really feel like we're very much alone and isolated. But through isolation, I think it's like a cocoon. We're in a cocoon individually right now. And, some caterpillars don't make it when they're in that cocoon, right? There's some caterpillars that unfortunately die in that cocoon. There's others, they fight through it. They grow, they mature. And then when the moment's right, out sprouts a beautiful butterfly.
Or moth.
Which is also beautiful.
Me? I'd fuck me. I'd fuck me hard.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Silence of the Lambs?
Oh, okay.
You never... What?
I've never seen that movie. I'll be the first. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I've never seen Silence of the Lambs. But what I was trying to get to is growth in general. Maybe the next step in my growth as a person is watching Silence of the Lambs. Maybe that's what I need to do. But I've been thinking about formative experiences that I've gone through that I haven't talked about on this podcast before. This past week, I actually haven't. Actually, on closing out the week, I mentioned it, but I just got back. I just flew back last Friday from Southern California. I was there Thursday and Friday for my grandmother's funeral. And so it's gotten me, I've been reflective recently on like life and a lot of, introspective ideas. So I thought it'd be fun, Quinn, for us to share some of our formative experiences that have gotten us to this point and what we've learned from them. If you would like to take that journey with me, sir.
Okay.
So, man, I don't know. I'm just going to start by asking you a question, Quinn. You've moved around quite a bit, which was probably the main thing we talked about in the very first episode of this podcast when I interviewed you.
So long ago.
That was almost a year and a half ago, which is crazy. So maybe not everybody's listened to that show, which I wouldn't blame them. It's been a long time, and it's pretty rough to listen to. It's very long. So it's very long.
It is very long.
It's like almost 3 hours. I thought I was Joe Rogan. Okay, not everybody can do a 3-hour show and make
you
it
went deep,
super deep, super deep. But that movement, from California out to Kentucky, all right, then to Nebraska, if I'm correct, and then to
back
California.
to Kentucky.
Oh, back to Kentucky, then to California,
back to Nebraska.
Oh, damn.
And then back to California, then to
And
Hawaii, and then back to California, and now back to Hawaii.
So through all that movement,
I'm a jumper.
Yeah, some people are shooters and others are jumpers, and you, sir, are a jumper.
Call me Nomad Norman.
Okay, Nomad Norman. So what have you learned through all that moving around? I feel like, you've told me in the past, in previous conversations, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, that you see yourself as somebody who's not going to stay in one place for too long. You're just that kind of person. You always are thinking about your next step geographically, where you can grow and gain more experience elsewhere. So where did that mentality kind of come from?
Well, that's it. That's a really interesting question. Part of me wonders, and I've been thinking about this too. Part of me wonders if it's a nature versus nurture sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
How much of our genetic memory influences our present actions and our present decisions. Apelli, I'm gonna butcher his name, and I apologize.
No, you're good.
Apelli Haofi. My Polynesian diction is terrible. Wrote a article a long time ago called "Sea of Islands," and he talked about the connectivity between Polynesian people, and he referenced how at our very heart we're a traveling people, we're an exploring people, we're a nomadic people. We're always out searching, traveling to the next horizon. So that's kind of a romanticized ideal that I don't know if I've self-propagated within myself as motivation or whether I actually believe it or not, but I thought it was worth mentioning.
Right.
The second way I think would just be, I don't know if it's it's comfortable. It's almost uncomfortable for me to be in one place for too long.
Yeah.
Because I've moved around so much. It's almost like an itch, like a scratch after a while. Where, if stagnation to me is torture. I cannot stand being stagnant. I can't stand being still water.
I see.
It drives me insane. It makes my skin crawl. and, you know, come hell or high water, at some point or another, I just feel like I need to go somewhere. I need to see something. Part of me wonders if that's in some way an attempt to control, to have a greater measure of control of my own life.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
I'm not sure of that, but perhaps it is,
Yeah.
Yeah, if I get to physically and metaphorically choose the road I'm on, then, I feel that I am in
control.
I'm in control.
That makes sense. And I think that speaks to what a lot of people are going through right now, because a lot of people right now don't feel in control at all over anything that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And, to a degree, we're not. It's not really anyone's fault that we know of, at least. That, like not one person's fault.
Not one person, Marco. One country. China.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, please. Don't get me started, man. You know I can go in on that, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it on topic. But
no. I saw the opportunity for a joke. I joke. So
I understand. I know it's fine, but I think that resonates with a lot of people, because so many people feel like they want to just leave their current situation. They want that control. And I think that's what's driving a lot of people crazy right now, is that they don't feel in control. And I think that's a big reason why so many people feel like, well, I don't want to wear a mask. I don't want to wear a mask, because then I give up that one last shred of control, control. I'm putting air quotes up, because you do still have control over things in your life, but it's that symbolic control. And I don't know.
And it's ironic, that people would make such a fuss about such a small thing. And part of me wonders if that's because that they don't actually crave control, but now because of isolation, because of the COVID situation, there's no authoritative control structure. So what I mean by that is you're not in control of your life when you wake up at 9 a.m., you drive 45 minutes to work, you clock in, you work for 8 hours, you clock out, and then you drive 45 minutes home. That's not, that's
predetermined.
That's predetermined, and it's also a form of servitude.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I buy into the notion that people are so incredibly distressed that they no longer have control. I wonder, to the degree in which we had control to begin with. Well, I wonder if it's a false illusion. Remember in Avengers, in Avengers, when Loki is walking, in front of the crowd, and they're all, on their knees, and this is a metaphor, obviously. When he says, "Is this not your natural state? Do you not crave subjugation? Is it not easier for you?" It's a crude thing, but there is truth to it.
Right. And so what you're saying is, we actually have more control now because of the state we're in, that people don't know what to do with it, and we're so used to thinking control is serving a purpose to a business or filling a role at a company.
Yes.
Or doing.
I'm suggesting that perhaps the absence of authoritative structure has disrupted people's control meter.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No,
I don't know if I'm articulating it well, but
no, I understand what you mean. How so people now have control, they don't know what to do with it, so they feel like they have.
They're in control of their own personal time.
Mm-hmm.
Because they no longer have that time to serve for someone else, someone or something else.
Yeah, because the structure isn't there that they're used to.
Yeah.
And that's where some of the distress comes. And I get that. I guess this perfectly segues me into the first story that I'll give. And, a big reason why I even started this podcast again after season 1, I wasn't planning on it this soon. But the reason why is because I literally needed something to do. I needed a routine. I need something to focus on, to be like, all right, I'm going to do this now. I'm doing this. I have this obligation. I have to give my time to make this show so people can listen to it. And those, however many people listen, can enjoy the content, right? Like,
something
I have a
serve.
Purpose. It gives purpose, right?
You offer a service, yeah.
Exactly. And when you don't have that, you get restless, and people get really restless. And I did as well. The first season was really grueling for me, as I've mentioned before on the show, because I overloaded myself with so many of those things to distract me from personal problems that I was trying to just forget about, by distracting myself with constantly going to concerts, working all the time, going to school constantly, doing the show, working on music, playing shows, setting up, not just doing this specific podcast, but setting up interviews, finding guests, making schedules months in advance for like what the next step is going to be for the show and everything. And like, it got to a point where, like, now all those issues that I pushed away because I wanted to distract myself with all these other obligations that I bestowed upon myself back then, now I'm having to deal with all of these issues all at once internally, that it would have been so much easier if I would have let myself breathe back then and take issues one at a time, or tackle these internal quandaries one at a time, I should say. Whereas now I have to, it's like the end of Endgame, tying it back to Avengers, where Thanos has the entire army, right? And Cap is standing there. And mentally, it can be rather strenuous now, but it's partially my fault for not allowing myself to deal with things when the issues were smaller. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is a growing, that's a lesson within itself, that, in the future, once we get through this portion of what our society is going through, I have to allow myself to breathe. I have to have a better balance of things, because being unbalanced, not good.
Another place where I think people are struggling a lot, when you have this sudden absence of authoritative structure, it also takes away people's value when your value is inherently tied to what you do.
Right.
And so it puts an immense pressure on people to be as introspective as possible, to fan the flames within their belly, to find that passion, to find that fire.
Right.
I think if anything is a blessing to come out of this time, it is hopefully that people who are malcontent with their lives but stuck in stagnation find within themselves the courage to start something new.
Which is what you were pleading with people to do on Hang 10 this past week.
Yeah, it's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah. And where do you think, I mean, you kind of mentioned, you got it tied back, you already talked about it, kind of, when you talked about, Polynesian culture, and how they're very much there's very much the idea of changing your surroundings and traveling and not really staying in one place for too long is very cultural in that way. Um, when you were growing up, did you ever think about that too? Or is this more of a realization that you've come to recently?
More of a realization that I came to recently. I didn't grow up with a real cultural identity. Um, you know, I didn't meet another Polynesian person outside of my father, brother, and sister, until I was in high school. My cultural identity was shaped through pop culture and through stories from my father. So
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm somewhat the same way, but being Mexican, there's a lot of them in California, so it's the culture. Mexican culture is very tied into what California as a state, so it's a little different in that regard. But
the identity.
yeah, I've talked about it before on the show, but when I lived in San Francisco, this time reminds me of my time in San Francisco a lot, because I was isolated like we all are now. But the difference is, and it's obvious what the difference is that I had somewhere to go where I wouldn't be isolated, and it's back here in Sacramento. I just had to take a bus for 2 hours, and I back in the place where I had friends and had a car, and my parents would make me food and stuff. When I was living in San Francisco, it was very much how it is now that people are feeling, where I didn't have enough money to even go outside. Like, because if I went outside and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go to the park. If I go to the park and I get hungry there, right, I'm going to have to walk back, and it's going to make, like, I can't just buy food when I go out there because I don't have enough money to do that. So if I go to that park that I want to go to, which I have to take a train to get to where I'd want to go. I'm thinking one specific car. I'm thinking of Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. If I want to go there, that's a whole day trip because of how the transportation system is in SF. So just to go to a fucking park, I couldn't afford to do that because I have to think ahead of, like, okay, I'll get hungry, I'll get thirsty, I have to buy food, water, I have to buy my train ticket, I have to do all these, these little things. Can't do it. So I have to stay here. So I would just stay in my room and play 2K, listen to music, and just, like, think all the time. And for other reasons, people can't go out now, right? And it's crazy because I feel, when I wake up, the same feelings that I had back then of just like, oh my God, like, I hate this. Like, when is this going to be over? And of course, the other difference is I was 100% in control of that situation. I could have left San Francisco after my first semester. I decided to stay another one and then leave that May. So I was in control of when I was going to leave and all these things. Right now, us as just a sole individual can't control how long this pandemic is going to be. We all can if we take the proper precautions and wear masks and social distance and everything. We all can if we all work together, but one person can't just change, obviously the entire country or the entire country's fate. But that's one parallel that I've been feeling recently. And it's been really interesting because I never thought I'd feel that again. Ever. But yeah, it's been crazy. Definitely been crazy on my end. Just reliving those emotions of just feeling isolated and just trying to figure out things to do that don't cost too much money, and having to budget out every little thing. Because there's, income is hard to come by nowadays. And around that time too, it was the election. Back 4 years ago. So that also is a common theme. But yeah, what about you? Have you found yourself kind of revisiting any sort of
Had like any sort of deja vu nostalgia?
yeah.
Um, Not entirely. No. This. We kind of talked about this on our last not on our last podcast, but the last time Brianna Carmel was on, when I talked about,
Oh, Hoobastank?
when we talked about Hoobastank, yes. And then we also talked about, kind of, I'm not having such a immensely difficult time, to be 100% honest with you, in this pandemic, emotionally or mentally. I think perhaps going back to my transience, perhaps perhaps that's prepared me, prepared me for it,
Yeah.
But no, I don't. It
You
doesn't
don't have any connections.
It doesn't really
Time.
It doesn't really
time in
harken.
Nebraska.
When I first moved to Nebraska, when I had left Western Kentucky University, it was kind of like a low point for me because I had left ashamed. I felt that I was ashamed, because I had dropped out. To me, that's failing, and some friendships had kind of deteriorated, and all kinds of crazy shit was going on. I felt like I had left Kentucky, kind of ashamed. And I was living in Nebraska for the first few months, kind of with my head down, kind of feeling, down on myself, kind of feeling like a little bitch boy. But but I got over it. And
Right.
I hate to say that so cavalierly or so nonchalantly, but I don't know. I've just always seemed to have a sort of adaptability where, even when things were, either bleak or clammy or fucking, matte gray, when everything is fucking matte,
Mm-hmm.
the sky is matte blue, the grass is matte green, when everything seems to be going like that. I might linger in that pool of despair for a while, but every once in a while, I get hungry and, get some nachos. And things start to look better.
Yeah.
So that's just something I've always been able to have.
Yeah.
And I've never been like a very sociable person.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I have never been, the kind of person to go, go wild on the night or anything like that.
Yeah, you're naturally an introvert, is what you're saying. More
So. Nah, man, I've kind of just
I
roll with punches pretty well.
What would be your advice to people who'd want to adopt that sort of mentality, and want to kind of have that as well?
It's really tough. I really wish people would step back off that ledge and cut ties with all the lies that they've been living in.
Oh my god. Really, bro? Really? Come on, man.
No, my advice, it's hard, dude, because it's hard to give this sort of advice to people because, you never know what people are going through and how people affect people differently. Something that might roll off my shoulder. I might, slip a jab and someone might fucking just take it right in the grill like CM Punk.
Damn.
Wow. But what I always what I would tell someone who is down in the dumps consistently, I've kind of adopted this sort of philosophical life frame where my life is just a RPG, and your decision in an RPG may result in lower skill points. It may result in a lesser inventory. It may put you in a situation with NPCs surrounding you, wanting to disembowel you or cast you out.
Right.
They all may be pointing and laughing at you over your micro penis. Who knows? But the point is,
Why you gotta call out my man Jose like that, dude? Damn.
the point is, the point is that there's always time to make a new decision, and that new decision can take you to new situations, to new NPCs with a greater inventory and more skill points.
Right. It's the infinite RPG.
Life is the infinite RPG. And that's, if you don't like your setting, if you don't like the people around you, the beautiful thing about life is that you can change it.
Yeah.
The most difficult thing is finding the will to change it. To take that first step.
I see.
This is the beginning of The Hobbit. There and back again.
Perfect.
This is the story of Bilbo Baggins.
Everyone is their own Bilbo.
Everyone is your own Bilbo. Get your own Bilbo.
They sell those at Spencer's, right? No, but I think that's very insightful. That's very beautiful of how you're describing life. And I want to speak on that, the will, right? Because there might be people who are struggling to find the will right now. I mean, I don't want to bring the mood down too much. I'm really trying to keep it light here. But the truth is,
I was just gonna say that something to consider. When I've always been confronted with a big decision, something to consider is that nothing is permanent.
Yes.
Exactly. Nothing is permanent, whether it be feelings, material things around you, people.
Yeah.
The only thing that is permanent, if you allow it to be, is the lessons you draw from the choices you make and how that influences you in your character's journey. That's the only thing that's permanent.
Exactly.
Everything else is temporary, which is the only reason why life is beautiful, is because nothing is designed to be eternal. The beauty of life is that if you're listening to me right now, moment's gone. It will never happen again. Another moment's gone.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of life. Is the spontaneity of every moment, the fire of every second, and how quickly it vanishes. That's what gives it meaning. That's what gives it value.
Yeah.
Is that your time is restricted, so you got to do something with it.
Exactly. And there is always something that can be done, right? And people, and I've made this mistake throughout all of my adolescence. It's actually the root of a lot of the internal struggles that I have to battle on a day-to-day basis, is that like some people have really, really high expectations for just actions that you can do, for options that you can do, like just getting out of bed, opening your blinds and brushing your teeth and putting on your contacts or your glasses or taking a shower. Just that small routine in the beginning of the day. Like, look at that as like, all right, like that decision to follow that routine, like that's a good thing. Like looking at that specific, those small things as, all right, This is nice. This is good. This is a good thing. All right, and then what's the next thing I'm going to do? Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is go downstairs and make myself something to eat. And that process of actually crafting, I don't fucking know, a bagel, getting a bagel, pulling it apart, looking at both sides and putting it in a toaster, and then grabbing your cream cheese and your avocado or whatever you want to put on your bagel.
What,
your
you don't
jelly.
like falafel?
No. And you can get, like crafting your breakfast and getting your coffee and enjoying that moment for yourself. That's where, that's a great experience. Those are choices you're making to do. Like, you're making those choices, consciously. But what people want is like grander things. They want things that are like experiences. Like, I want to, I don't know if you've seen this movie.
I want to ride a Pegasus.
Yeah, or shit like that. It's like, I want to skydive, and like, I don't fucking know. I want to go skydiving, and I want to like go to the beach and drive down Highway 1, and I want to have these really great movie-esque moments, like at the end of Perks of Being a Wallflower, when those fucking people, the characters are like, they're driving through the tunnel and they're on the top of like a truck or something, and it's just like a beautiful moment where they enter the city and they're just free and they feel free. Those moments come very few and far between in life, and that's just something people have to accept. But what I find myself and a lot of people doing is they fall into that that desire to have those really beautiful moments as often as possible because they're so stimulating, which I get, but you have to allow yourself to be like stimulated and satisfied by the smallest moments, by just getting out of bed, just drinking water. I mean, for me, I just went for a walk before I did this podcast, and when I got back, I was like, okay, I'm gonna just get some ice, put it in a cup, get water, and drink that whole cup of water, and it's gonna be great. And it was great. It was refreshing. And that's awesome. That is great. That is a great thing to do. But people overlook those really small things that are really, really, so easy to look over. And I feel like that's important too.
Yeah, people want the gold at the end of the rainbow, but they want to use a GPS to find it.
Yeah.
And that devalues the currency.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing too is, like you said, you have to take the first step, right? And opportunities are limited now because we can't socialize with each other.
Yeah.
But like I was referring to before, right now we're in the cocoon, and we have to work on. We're each in our own cocoons.
Would you
and we
fuck me?
And we have to work on things that once everything can reopen and we can go back to quote unquote normal life, we're able to be better. We're able to be happier than we were before, right? Just as individual people. I don't even want to get into the whole societal aspect of how we can be better, but just as individuals, we have the power to make ourselves better. Learn a new instrument, pick up, read a couple new books, pick up a hobby, start drawing. If you start writing stuff, write anything down, just start writing. When you're bored, just like pick up your computer,
start
your
drawing,
laptop.
blow dandelions, pick up leaves.
Jesus Christ. Okay. You can do whatever makes you feel happy, but I'm just giving suggestions on like how to feel, things that are going to make you feel better about yourself when you get better at it.
No, you're completely right. Good conscious decisions, and this is something Austin Maynard talked about at length a couple episodes. Good conscious decisions will eventually end up into good habits. Good habits eventually evolve into good lifestyles. That's like the Charizard of life. decisions, habit, lifestyles. That's your tier. And yeah. So that's what I think. But you were talking about you said something earlier that I thought was interesting, and I'd ask you about that.
Okay.
You referenced moments in your life at which you felt your most free. And so I ask thee, Marco Alvarado, at which moments in your life have you felt the most free?
Jesus Christ. That's a great question, man. Let me think. I think that feeling, I don't mean to be indirect with answering this question, but that feeling of freedom is very much a hindsight feeling. It's a feeling that you feel, that you get from memories when you've grown and matured past the person you were at that time. So in that moment, you didn't feel free because you were younger and that was all you knew. But now that you've matured, or I've matured, I should speak for myself. Now that I've matured and I look back on moments when I was in high school or in San Francisco or any other time in my life, at least from when I was like 14 onward, because anything before that, you can make an easy argument that, oh, you were super free. Yeah, because you're a kid. So like,
yeah. This is post. I think this definitely has to be 16 and above at the very
16
least.
and above. Okay, yeah. So like, looking back at those times, my world was so small when I was like 16, 17, and 18, and I didn't realize it because that's all I knew. And now that I've traveled and I've experienced and met a lot of people, experienced a lot of things, looking back at those moments from like when I was 16 and 17 and how I was just realizing certain things, just like starting to become my own person entirely. That's those formative experiences of like, experiencing, losing a really good friend for the first time, or experiences like having your first real relationship, those sort of things, the firsts, losing your innocence, that period when you lose your innocence, not just physically, but ideologically as well. And when you actually see the world for what it is and you learn that, it's very hard to feel free.
The moment when innocence dies.
Yeah. So like for me, I mean, I'm trying to think of like that specific moment when I was like, all right, like I'm this, like I don't like the world's different now than it was before. And I'll say it. I'll be very, very candid about it. I don't care. I'll do it. I don't care. I'm trying to phrase
Will
this
you
right.
say it? Will you say
it? I'm trying to phrase this right. When I had a girlfriend for a while, and eventually she moved away to go to school, and then we broke up. And that day that it happened,
I think I vaguely recall this period in your life.
You were very present for it.
Vaguely recall.
Yeah. That moment, like there was a clear distinction from that, how I felt before that day and how I felt after, and that feeling is different now. But it's not bad. It's not a bad thing. Like that freedom, that freeness of like, I guess this, okay, I don't want to make it sound like I'm still hung up on it, because I'm not, but I'm trying to phrase it in a way that won't make you sound that way. But there's a pain that comes with loss, obviously. When you lose something like a relationship, a parent, I can imagine, a really, really close friend that you're just not going to talk to again, somebody who was really meant a lot to you, and it's just over. That sets you on a course, and it changes your outlook on a lot of things. And when you look back on times before that one key experience, any time before that's going to feel more free, I think. And that's how I look at the times, before that specific moment where we broke up. I felt, now looking back, it's like, man, I was free of all these like really small things that have piled up since that point that I never even thought about. And
Tale of Two Marcos.
Yeah, exactly. That's a different person. But like you said, you have the choice to become better. And it's definitely a thing where like you lose somebody, it's going to take you a couple steps back, but you're going to have already treaded those steps that you once were at, right? So it's going to be easier to navigate those places you were once at and go forward more. So it's just taking, one step back, take two steps forward. It's the exact same thing. And it's funny how you can talk about these really big ideas, but summarize them in such small words with cliches.
That's why they're cliches.
I guess that's why people hate them so much, because it's like you can go so in
because they're
on
shittily honest.
Yeah, and then it's just like, I spend like 15 minutes talking about, freedom and innocence and shit, and then
cliches are like the person who corrects you, when you spell dollar wrong.
Yeah.
You hate that person. But god damn it, I spelled dollar wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought it was an E instead of an A.
Yeah. So I don't really have like one specific moment, but I definitely know when that feeling kind of has faded. But that doesn't mean that I won't feel it again. I mean, I think once I grow more and I'm able to do more things and be more independent, then I'll have that type of freedom again. But
as life's doors start to open up for you.
Exactly.
On angels' wings.
Just have to wait, because one day I'm gonna look back at this very moment and be like, man, I didn't realize just how awesome I had it. It's a classic thing. It's a classic, discussion with oneself, that you look back on how things were at one point when you felt really bad, and then you look back and you're like, you know what? Like, I definitely revere those moments.
Well, I mean, here's something to consider. You're always going to have a worse day.
Yeah.
Even if today was really shitty, hey, guess what? There's going to be a shittier day sometime, somewhere down the road. You're going to have a shittier day.
I agree with that. What about you? Do you have like a moment where you felt the most free, or like a time in your life where you felt the most free that's notable?
Ironically enough, after I had left Western Kentucky University feeling somewhat ashamed, I remember leaving. I remember I stayed at my mama's that night. The day before I left, I stayed at my mama's. And I left that next morning before anyone had really gotten up, because I was driving from Gracie, Kentucky, all the way to North Platte, Nebraska. It was a damn good amount of driving. And I remember multiple points when I would be driving along the interstate and there would be absolutely no one. And it would be absolutely quiet. And I remember pulling over quite often and just standing there in the vastness of silence. And looking around and seeing nothing. And no one. Those are moments that I have often stuck with me as being when I felt I was at my when I felt truly free. When I was quite literally geographically speaking, in the middle of nowhere. That blank slate. That is when I feel at my most free, which is probably, goes back to my, moving around a lot.
So it's like when it's like you looking at a blank canvas. Kind of.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, and for me, when I'm, this is why I love road trips so much. When I'm on a road trip, and often for me, a road trip predates a serious move.
It's true, yeah.
So, and oftentimes wherever I'm road tripping tends to, to be more of a scouting mission.
Interesting. Yeah, that is true. Just given your history, I definitely understand that.
So
I can see the parallels between everything.
But I mean, yeah, like I was saying, man, it geographically speaking, when you're in the middle of nowhere, it's like it's feeling like you are at the very center of the blank canvas.
Oh, okay.
With the brushes in your hand.
I see.
And you get to paint the road that you're on.
Because there's nothing but potential.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. There's it's infinity in its purest form.
Yeah.
When you can't see past, when you can't see the horizon around you, you just see into space.
Yeah.
That is to me the most free I've ever felt. There's definitely been other times, where I've like, oh, I will never forget this moment. This moment will stick with me for the rest of my life, and I cannot fucking remember those moments now to save my life.
I think it's important to make the distinction that just because you might have a moment where you feel the most free, it doesn't mean that that it's a euphoric moment.
Yeah.
You can have a very, very painful moment feeling the most free, a very grief-stricken moment feeling the most free. There's a lot of different moments that people can have. But actually, your story, if I may tell another one, kind of spurned a story in my mind that I totally forgot about until your sharing of your story. So, my friend Gavin, who has been on this podcast many times.
Gavin! Gavin! Where's Gavin? Gavin? I think about that every time.
I love, yeah.
That random guy in Red Dead.
Red Dead 2.
Gavin?
Red Dead 2 is a great game. Honestly, we need to have him on and just talk about Red Dead 2 because he loves that game as well. But anyways, as everyone knows, he's my best friend. Known him since kindergarten. Great guy. In high school, we were sophomores, so it was like we were like 15. So a little bit before the age range you gave, but I think it still fits. We would go to football games because that's just like the tradition. Every Friday night in the fall, like every kid would go to the football game, not watch the game, and just hang out with everyone else there. That's just tradition of the town that we live in and the high school we went to. Us being the, fucking edgy teenagers we never really liked. We liked being there. I liked it more than he did, being at those football games. But there were definitely a lot of times where we both were just like, fuck this shit. Like, I don't want to be around these people more than I have to. I have to be around these people at school anyways. Like, why would I want to spend more time? So we would go to the park right next to our high school. We'd walk there. It would be like 9 p.m, and we would walk in the dark into this park. This giant. It's the park of the town, Elk Grove Park.
Sus.
But it was. Yeah, it sounds kind of sus now looking back, but honestly, we would walk there and we would just talk and listen to music and just kick it.
Did you smoke grass in the park in Elk Grove?
I don't remember that. We might have. I don't remember.
If you don't remember, then I'd say you probably smoked grass.
You probably, yeah. That's a great point. Probably.
I'm just Josh.
No, but I probably did. But yeah, I remember those moments and just like talking and just, just shooting the shit, kind of like we are now, but at a time in our lives where we both felt like there was a lot of things going on, at that time, but we both felt like things were in flux, very much like right now. Things are in flux, and we don't really know what's going to happen. There were, even though we were just sophomores, college was starting to become something we had to think about. We were right on the precipice of having to think about it, and it was those nights where we'd go and listen to whatever music and just hang out together. There was sometimes where other people joined us too. Those are moments where I'm like, yeah, that was really freeing. Like leaving this bastion of light that is a football field, a high school football field, just illuminated in this in the night.
It's a symbol of the hierarchy of what life is for a 15, 16-year-old.
Exactly. And then we went and secluded ourselves in this little park and talked deeply about things while there's
beautifully metaphorical.
While there's people and kids, guys trying to get girls' numbers at the football game, people drinking beer under the bleachers and shit, and we're, talking about these things, maybe smoking some grass. I don't remember, but maybe. So that's definitely like a concrete moment that I'm like, yeah, I felt the most free in those times. Definitely.
One of the most important aspects I think of life is to have a best friend. I think it is singularly one of the most important things anyone can have in their inventory is a best friend. I think it's important to have a very tight-knit circle of friends.
Yeah.
Your best friend just happens to be out of that circle of friend, the one that, that you tend to be on the same frequency the most, I find.
Yeah.
I know one of the times I felt most free is with my best friend. My best friend, my hetero life partner, Ryan, Officer Crossett. We went on a road trip all up and down Northern California, man. I remember
that, yeah.
I remember we went to Point Reyes, which is, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful locations in all of Northern California. And
it is very beautiful.
It was right timing, man. We were definitely smoking grass, Bowie, at Point Reyes. And it was right timing, man, because the swells were crashing. And it was a cool day. It was a cool March day where you could, rock it out with some flannels and stuff, which is like the perfect kind of fucking California day, man.
Yeah.
And I just remembered the waves, man, the swells, how hard they were crashing. And it was one of my moments where I felt the most free. And for myself, speaking out of this, is a lot of times I think surrendering oneself to something greater can give you a sense of freedom. I know it does for me, whenever I see something so vast or so powerful and it makes me feel so insignificant, I find great freedom in that.
I see. Yeah. I can definitely relate to that. A lot. Yeah.
Knowing that that my actions, while in my world, in my game, in my RPG, my actions are they're everything.
Yeah.
But in a greater sense, they mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah, it's true.
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And I find that to be beautifully ironic.
That is very.
I think that's one of the great things about life. When you're a kid, your parents will often tell you something. While the moral is there, it's utter bullshit. They will tell you, you're not the center of your own universe, Cheryl. Well, you are the center of your own universe, Debbie. I mean, it's you're building that universe constantly, and I kind of seems like we're retreading old trails here, but with different metaphors. But but it's the truth. It's the truth. And if you take anything away from this podcast, know that, man, you're in more control than what you know and what you feel and what is evident. And no matter what options are presented to you, there's always a third option. There's always an ace in the hole. You just got to know how to spot it. You got to know when to hold them. You got to know when to fold them.
Oh my God, all these fucking cliches. God. Jeez, dude. I'm going to name this podcast just A Conversation of Cliches. That's what episode 5 is going to be called. But no, I mean, it is true. It is very true. I think it's everything that we talk about is very interconnected. It can be very easily talked about and in the same conversation. Just like, I forget which episode it was. It might have been the episode with Jose that we interviewed Jose, but we talked about, I wanted to talk about, God, it's on the tip of my tongue. The word that spurned our conversation. It was
with Jose?
No, it was before Jose. We had our conversation right before we talked to Jose. I want to say it was called detachment.
There it is. Detachment.
I
thought you were going to go to dismemberment.
No. What the fuck? No, when we had a conversation about detachment, and detachment can very much tie into this as well. I don't want us to like retread that, but there's so many different aspects of life. But sticking with the idea of a best friend, it's
important, man. I think it's crucial.
Important, but they also teach you a lot inadvertently, I think. And I mean that because for a while, I don't know if this is this way for you, Quinn, and and Ryan, but Gavin and I have basically kind of been very aligned in our thinking most of our lives. And now we're at this point where we're growing, like we're adults, as even though we don't feel like it, we are. And now things are starting to change. We're having different opinions. We're arguing over these opinions. And, it's not any reason to cut off the friendship or anything. But that sort of growth is and that experience of talking to somebody who you've known for so long that you've seen change and grow over the course of their life, and it gives you almost like a second, like sticking with that video game theme, it's like giving you a second character to kind of like have a side quest with every once in a while, that you help them do something and something might not work out in their experience on their quest, but you can learn from that too, and vice versa. Like, not just your best friend, but any friend, if you really value them as a person, looking at their experiences and seeing how you can learn from their experiences too will put you on a fast track to more, I don't want to say happiness, because it's not going to make you more happy, but you're just going to be more aware of different possibilities out there than you wouldn't be otherwise. And I'm just speaking from experience, because I wish that I would have looked more at my friends' experiences when I was going through difficult times in the past, and I'm trying to now. But I don't know if it's the same for you and Ryan, or you and your friends that you grew up with back in the day. But
well, speaking outside of Ryan, my best friend, I was very fortunate growing up. My close-knit circle of friends, the 270 clan, shout out to Mitchie P, Matt, Ezel, Sierra, and Ross G, Lucian. They were always, I always felt like they were infinitely more mature than me. Whether it be emotionally, physically, sexually, like they were ahead of the pack, in almost every way.
Right.
And they were always sort of there to guide me, or I was always, in the tertiary, watching and learning. I was very fortunate in that respect.
You were the Padawan.
I was the Padawan. I was the I was more like the running back, and they were like the offensive line.
Ah, okay. Damn.
I'm just playing.
Sure. Okay.
No. They tortured me for years about my thinning hair. They they could take a jab or two.
Damn. Yeah.
No. my best friend Ryan, dude, like there's almost a part of me that wishes that we could say that we were two rivers running parallel, sometimes diverging around rocks or different features, but it's absolutely not that. We are two madmen in a boat sinking to the bottom of the ocean, laughing hysterically in complete lockstep.
So you guys are the musicians on the Titanic, just playing the fiddle.
Well, we're not playing the fiddle. We got a harmonica and electric guitar. It makes no sense.
Hey, harmonicas and electric guitars go pretty well.
But
together.
But man, me and Ryan are often jamming to our own playlist, and I've been very fortunate to have a best friend in my life that is in many ways the same person as me, but in many ways is the yin to my yang in both intellect and reason and temperament.
I see.
I'll give you one example.
Okay.
I'll give you one example. I could. Well, damn it. See, I was gonna try to explain vivisection, but I know Ryan knows well. is a scholar on vivisection and dismemberment and disbowelment.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ!
But oh yeah. Okay. So one example. I know all kinds of obscure random facts that maybe your average bear, doesn't pick from the same tree.
Right.
But I did not know that that you cannot really adjust your credit score on your debit card. That you had to have a credit card to do that.
Bruh.
I had no. I had no idea.
Oh my God! How old were you?
This was 5 hours ago at the Bel Air.
Wait, what? Have you ever had a credit card?
No, I've never had a credit card in my life. I've never even wrote a check in my life. I remember when I was at Western Kentucky University, this is like 2011, 2012, a good friend of mine, Christian McGee, referenced like a social security card, and I was like, what?
Oh my God.
What the fuck are you talking about?
So anyways, your credit.
Life skills was not a class that I took or entertained ever. I was much more interested in like supernatural things. But what I'm saying is that it's important to have that balance or that figure in your life. To me, that figure is a best friend. It's a pal, And I've been fortunate to have one such as Ryan, who has lifted me up and when I fell down. This dude, man, when I was at my lowest, at my most depressed, I was living in Nebraska and working at Menards, and I was just completely and utterly complacent and stagnant. And in a move of desperation, I called him and I was like, if I buy you a plane ticket to come live in Nebraska, will you do it?
Yeah.
And he said yes. 2 days later, we had an apartment in Nebraska.
What the fuck? Where was he living before?
Yeah, he was living in Hopkinsville in our hometown in Kentucky.
He was just there, just like chilling?
He was just there hanging out. And, often some of the mistakes that we've made, that I've made, or mistakes that he's made and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of our triumphs are the same. Our interests are equally aligned. This sounds super fucking gay. But, besides long walks under the moonlight, it's important to have a best friend. That's all I'm
Yeah.
trying to say.
No,
It's
I
important to
understand.
have an anchor.
It is. It is important. And
One that's not romantic. I think it's important to have a non-romantic anchor.
Oh, dude, exactly. Like I've come to know too many people that they're constantly looking for the next significant other, you know? Like they just hop from one person to another person, which there's nothing wrong with that, but when that person's your only thing in your life, the only connection outside of your family that you have, that significant other, it's an issue. That is an issue. But that's something that, a lot of people they learn that, but
Well,
there's reasons for that.
I think one thing people need to learn is learn how to be alone.
That's the hardest thing.
And
That's
learn
what,
that that's okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Learn how to be alone.
I'm nodding my head right now for everyone who can't see. Yeah. No. That's
silence yourself and silence your world and be surprised at what you might hear.
Exactly. And the thing is too is being alone doesn't mean that you are 100% secluded from everybody else.
Well,
It's
the great thing. You're not alone. When you are alone, you're not alone.
Right.
When you learn how to be alone, you're not alone.
Exactly.
Because you've fully mastered on how to use yourself as a mode of both function and entertainment.
Exactly. 100%.
You can self-sustain yourself.
Yes.
Not completely, not totally, but
yeah. And what I mean too is like once you stop, for anybody who is putting a lot of effort into not being alone, once you allow yourself to take a break from that, to always reaching out, you allow yourself to, I'm not saying give up, but take a break from that. And you reabsorb that energy that you're always expanding out into the universe, trying to get somebody to pair with you so you're not alone. And you take that energy and you put it back within yourself and you let yourself rest. And then after you rest, you're going to feel like you're going to discover things about yourself that you hadn't discovered before. You might be like, you might be listening to this podcast right now and be like, I'm going to try that. And then you're going to listen to our weekly recommendations that we're going to do shortly. And then you might hear one of our recommendations, check that thing out. For instance, let's say it's a movie. Then you're going to go watch that movie. You're going to find an actor that you really like, and you're going to go ahead and go down that person's IMDb page and discover a ton of different movies you wouldn't have otherwise. And you're putting your effort and your energy into that, and you're going to feel better because you learned something. Or you're going to take a chance drawing like I was clowned on suggesting, but you might start drawing.
You may learn that rubbing toothpaste on your nipples is okay. And it feels great.
What the fuck? Is that from Silence of the Lambs too? Because I don't know.
No, I can't remember where I heard that, but it has something to do with fluoride.
Oh, jeez. But yeah, so all great lessons that we've learned over the years, I think. Thank you for walking down that road with me, Quinn. I appreciate it very much. And it's been fun. And we haven't actually had a pretty deep podcast like this in a minute since Brianna Carmel.
Sure.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thanks, Arthur. Arthur Morgan.
Sometimes you gotta go deep. Sometimes that's on a Monday night. Sometimes it's right after Everybody Loves Raymond.
Or after America's Next Top Model. Is that still a show? Remember that show?
I don't know if it's before, but I would definitely recommend sometimes you gotta go deep before 10:15. Because you got work in the morning.
It's true. It's very true. But Now, I think it's time for our weekly recommendations. So here that is. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that kind of existential conversation that Quinn and I just ended.
A visit to the Stardust Motel.
Exactly. And now it is time for our weekly recommendations. All right. All right. Quinn, it is your time to shine.
Okay. So my first recommendation this week is something that I've been rewatching with my family on Hulu all week, and that is a sitcom popularized in the 2000s.
Is it Scrubs?
It's Scrubs.
Yay!
It's Scrubs. Yeah, I've been rewatching Scrubs. I've been rewatching a lot of Scrubs, and man, I had forgotten. I'd forgotten how awesome the show was. And you know, it's Scrubs is a show at its core that is about human relationships in the most positive way.
Really? I've honestly I've watched a couple episodes, but I don't know much about it, so.
I always felt like Scrubs was like going to therapy. It's a positive experience.
Wow.
Every episode is capstoned by JD who's played by Zach Braff, giving a sort of a monologue at the end where he surmises his thoughts of the day. It's kind of like Jerry Springer's final thoughts. And oftentimes they're quite profound.
Uh-huh.
You know, I don't want to say, JD is, like the Confucius of Comedy Central. But
yeah.
It's surprising how many sitcoms often strike at something greater and something deeper. On the surface, it's just a 30-minute program with a laugh track and, some fucking nerdy one-liners.
Yeah.
Zling! Zunga! But a lot of times, and we talked about this a lot earlier, with cliches. Sitcoms are a lot like cliches. Oftentimes they're tacky. Oftentimes they can wear on you and they can get old quick. But every once in a while, a sitcom, much like a cliche, can perfectly paraphrase a moment in time. And I feel like Scrubs. I feel like Scrubs. Scrubs is one such show.
Yeah.
I would recommend it. JD, Elliot, Carla, Turk. Scrubs. My first recommendation on Hulu.
Very nice. I like it. I definitely have to give that show a chance. For some reason, my parents never really liked Scrubs when I was younger, so I just never watched it because they never had it on. So
that's an interesting question. What sitcoms were your parents into, and did they rub off on you? Did you inherit them?
My
parents watched Seinfeld, and then I love Seinfeld because of it.
That's interesting. Yeah, no, my parents never really watched. My parents never really had shows that they like would watch consistently. The only shows because my dad was always at work, at night, so he would never be watching shows with us or anything.
Oh man!
So like my mom would be the one who watched TV, and she was into like American Idol, Dancing with the Stars, shit like that. So I never really watched. I like those sitcoms. I never really got into anything like that, unfortunately. I mean, I
never like Friends or anything.
No,
Pivot.
No.
Pivot.
I mean, I would go out of my way and try to watch Friends or watch The Simpsons or watch Scrubs or watch The Office, which The Office stuck the most out of any sitcom. I think that's pretty common.
That is a unpopular opinion.
Really?
You're saying The Office is an overrated sitcom?
No, I said it's stuck. Not it.
Oh, I thought you said it sucked.
No, it's stuck with me and my family more than
Got
any
you,
other
got
show.
you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I was like, what?
I was about to say, wow. I will say, last 2-3 seasons of The Office.
Yeah. I agree with that. I don't disagree. But yeah, I mean, that's just how I was brought up. But yeah, I've never really given shows like that a chance. But my mom was a really big fan of Will and Grace. We'll say that.
Yep. I remember Will and Grace. I remember those days.
And there was
remember those seasons.
And there was a lot of those moments where, you know, you're watching Nick at night. You're watching Nickelodeon at like 9 p.m. last episode of SpongeBob of the day, and you fall asleep, and you wake up at like 3 a.m. This TV's still on, and you just see George Lopez's face just jumping up from the screen, and you hear low, right, yeah, yeah, exactly, and you just see all the people jumping up, just jumping, yeah, and then you watch an episode of George Lopez show.
The best, man. The best.
I always liked
My
Everybody
Wife and
Loves
Kids. Come on. Wife and Kids.
Yeah, I've always liked Everybody Loves Raymond. That was
I liked Everybody Loves Raymond, dude. Ray Romano was fucking hilarious.
Dude, and that show was pretty funny, honestly. I would give it up to them. Early Roseanne was pretty good too, honestly. I'll give it
See,
up.
I never got into Roseanne.
I
never got into Roseanne, man. For me, it was Seinfeld was always big.
Yeah.
I remember all kinds of nights in my childhood around 5:30 p.m. when you would just hear it'd be like a new scene in Seinfeld. Yeah. Or I remember X-Files when X-Files
that's not even
was
a sitcom, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, when X-Files was giant in the 90s.
Yeah.
I remember that having an hourly block.
That show always scared the fuck out of me. Just the music terrified me. But
oh,
dude. Nightmare Fuel. That song. I always thought I would get abducted by aliens after hearing that song. But anyways, okay. My first recommendation is a group actually that I went to go see while I was in Sweden. They are called Efterklang. They are a Dutch band, and they play some some indie music in the vein, indie pop music in the vein of Grizzly Bear and bands like that. Their instrumentation is very simple, but I mean that in the best way possible. And they combine ambient noises with some R&B flavors, and each album is very distinct in their discography. They bring different sounds in with each album, so nothing's necessarily the same on one album. I don't know the names of all their albums, so you have to excuse me off that, but Efterklang in one album uses a lot of folky sounds. In other albums, in another album they might go like very synth heavy. In another album they'll just go straight rock. In another album they'll infuse R&B in there. So they're very as Bruce Lee said it best, they're like water. They're like water, and they fit in whatever cup they want to put themselves in. So Efterklang, very, 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 or actually they're not Dutch, I'm sorry, they're Danish, my apologies. But they're a great band. Definitely check them out. They're on Spotify. They're everywhere. And that is my first recommendation. Quinn, what is your second?
My second recommendation is I'm going to recommend a performance.
Ooh.
And I think this is, in my opinion, the best performance I've seen in the year 2020. Granted, cinema isn't quite what it was last year. But this performance is by an actor in a program I've referenced before called Mindhunter.
Yeah.
The lead of Mindhunter is played by a young man named Jonathan Goff. Or Groff? Is it Jonathan Goff or Groff?
I don't know.
Regardless. we'll say Jonathan. JG. Jonathan Groff has a performance in Hamilton. Obviously, if you've been alive in the last 5 years, you know what Hamilton is.
Yeah.
He plays King George.
Oh.
And he has 3 numbers. And Disney Plus recently released the cinematic version of Hamilton.
Yeah.
Which features a variety of shots, particularly close up, which allows you, to really see the actor's face.
Yes.
And when I saw Jonathan Groff's face when he performed "You'll Be Back," which is his first piece in Hamilton, what I saw was a mastery of expression, emotion.
Wow.
Mastery, expressions ranging from jubilation, ignorance, arrogance, hatred, madness, endearment, regret. And, we referenced earlier, we talked about Silence of the Lambs. Jonathan Groff employs something. I don't know if he does this intentionally, but it's something I noticed that he did in this performance, allowed by the close-ups in Hamilton on Disney Plus.
Wow.
His brow and his eyes are dead. And it's the same thing Anthony Hopkins utilized when he portrayed Hannibal Lecter.
Wow.
When you close the shutters on the windows to the soul. And that's exactly what Jonathan Groff did in Hamilton. It is a masterful performance.
I do that all the time.
It should be, I don't know if it will be, but it should be a shoo-in for the Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor.
Wow.
So I highly recommend you watch Hamilton and you pay particularly close attention to the outstandingly fine work. And I'm going to look up his last name if I want to say it right. Jonathan Groff. I did get it right. Jonathan Groff. Pay particularly close attention to Jonathan Groff and his portrayal of King George. And you will be amazed. It's a seminar in acting.
Awesome, dude. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. I've been meaning to check out Hamilton. So that's definitely on my to-do list.
That being said, I fell asleep a couple times when watching Hamilton.
I mean, hey, that's fine. Whatever. Okay. So the last recommendation of this episode is a classic. A classic epic poem by none other than Homer. And it is the Odyssey. It is Odyssey by Homer. I've been having to read this book because of my summer course that I'm taking in Greek mythology. And having read most of it, it's crazy to see how the Greeks' perceptions and thoughts of war is almost exactly how we see it today. And how so many of our perceptions have, in the West at least, or specifically America, can be traced back to this book or this poem, because it is a collection of poems that comprise this book. And what I mean is that in the book, Odysseus fought in the Trojan War, right? And this takes place afterwards, and he's trying to get back to his wife. And he fought in the war. He killed a lot of people. He wasn't, but he's not like the atypical hero. He's not Hercules. He's not strong. He's not tied to a deity or anything. He's just a guy.
He is the king of Ithaca, right?
I don't think so. I think he's just, he might be high up in Ithaca. I think that's another character.
He's from Ithaca. I know that part.
He's from Ithaca, but I don't think he's the king. He might. I don't think he is. I think that was another character in the Iliad. But regardless, he's just a guy. He's not really necessarily good looking, but he is smart, and he uses his smarts in order to get back to his wife. Right? When he comes back to his wife is Penelope. Her name's Penelope. Is being courted by multiple suitors in Odysseus's house, and they're living at his house trying to court her, and they're sleeping with her servants who are also female. There's probably some males there too, but they're all getting slept with.
Everybody's fucking everybody.
Yeah, exactly. And Odysseus comes up and sees this, and is like, "What?" Right? What his response to this, okay, after 10 years of being away, is to kill everybody that is there. Is to kill everyone. They all die, including the servants, because they slept with the suitors, and now the mostly women, the servants who are mostly women are now not pure, so they must die. So they die too. He kills everybody. Him and a bunch of his buddies kill all those people, and he reclaims his place as husband to Penelope. Now, mind you, he had sex with a lot of other people in this story before that. So he went around, but
Oh yeah,
it's not, it's classic patriarchal values. But anyways, it just shows that, like, even back in ancient Greece, violence was the first option, and it very much seems like America and Americans revere war and violence, and cheer it on, and have a craving for that, and we see that dated in our modern times currently with the police and everything. And I think it's very much a poem, that very long poem, but it's a poem nonetheless, that is culturally relevant right now. So if you want to read it, it is free online. There's tons of different translations. The translation that I'm currently reading is by Stanley Lombardo. So that's what I'm currently reading. But there's a bunch of different translations online and that are slightly different in the plot. But that is my last recommendation for the week.
Have you finished reading it?
No, I'm currently there's some things that happen after the massacre.
He returns home.
Yeah, after he returns home. So I'm still getting to that part. But yeah. I'm basically.
What is your favorite part?
Probably that part. The Cyclops part is classic.
Yeah, I was about to ask about the Cyclops.
Yeah, I mean it's classic, but yeah.
And Calypso.
Yeah.
A dime piece.
Yeah, she is. But Quinn, is there anything else you want to say to the lovely people before we conclude this fifth episode?
No, not particularly. I do want to thank everyone that's been tuning in so far into our new format, into our new foray. We've put out a lot more content. 3 weekly programs coming at you. I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in. It seems, from my on the surface sort of look at it, seems like there's a consistent line of where things are, and I just really want to extend my appreciation towards the individuals that make up that consistent base, if you will. So I deeply appreciate you guys tuning in, your downloads. It's very cool.
Yeah, thank you guys.
I just want to say thank you.
Very nice. Yeah, thank you guys very much. We, like Quinn said, we appreciate your support, and if you want to support us further, following us on Instagram at The Closers Podcast, on Facebook, like our Facebook page at Closers Podcast, and on YouTube, subscribe, like our videos, hit the bell, share the videos, you know what to do with that. Helps us all out a lot. We will be back. Will be back on Friday to close out your week in style. We're going to have a lot to talk about, and I'm going to try my best to keep it brief for that. But for now, have a great rest of your week, and I will see you on Friday. Take care, Quinn. Take care, audience. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.